So scheduling for basic users will focus on the web portal. And your web portal is the main interface that your basic level users and supervisory level users will be logging on to for day-to-day scheduling needs. Now, today's class is scheduled for approximately an hour and a half. We have, I believe, 4 or 5 different departments attending this class, and so because of that, I will just keep the microphones muted until the end of the class. Then I will open them up, and I will be happy to take any questions that you may have. However, you can and are welcome to send me any questions via the chat feature found in the Go-To Training control panel. And that is found at the bottom of the Go-To Training window. And to use it, just click on the plus sign right next to where it says chat. Enter your question where it says type message here. And below that, you will be able to choose if you want to send that question privately to me, or you can choose to share it with the entire audience. If you plan on submitting questions, don't be shy, and feel free to share your questions with everyone else in the group. Chances are, if you're asking the question, someone else probably wanted to as well. Now, today's class will be recorded, and soon after today's session, you will receive an email link which will provide you access to the video. So a question came up, will this be for non-police users as well? In some part, yes. I mean, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at viewing schedules. We're going to be requesting time off, requesting overtime. We might be touching on certain items that tend to be more police-oriented. That might be true, but I would say about 80% of what we're going to look at can apply to departments outside of police departments. So whether you're a fire department, municipality, or even a private company that's using this for scheduling, you'll definitely get what you need from this class. Now, if there ends up being something more specific to your needs that are not covered during the class, I'd be happy to address that with you. Okay. All right, and one last thing before we get started. It's important that you're able to see my complete screen. Go-To Training can sometimes block a portion of that. So on the left side of the Go-To Training control panel, you'll notice a tab, and at the top of that tab, you'll see an orange button with a white arrow in it. If you click on that button, that will hide the controls. You should be able to see my entire screen more clearly. And you can always click on that button once again if you want to ask a question using the chat feature I just showed you. All right, so again, this is completely web-based. I have my web portal loaded up. Now, each department or each agency is going to have its own website link. So you're not going to use the one I'm logging on to. You're going to use the one that was designed specifically for your department. Once you've entered that link into any web browser that you like, Safari, Internet Explorer, Chrome, you'll see the login screen in front of you. And we're going to enter our username and password. For some of you, usernames might be first initial last name. It might be an employee ID. For others, it might be a badge number. I'm just going to enter in a generic user account that's used just for these classes. And because I'm logging in possibly for the first time, one of the first screens I'm going to see is asking me to change my password. I'm going to enter the current password, the one I just used, and I'm going to pick a brand new password and enter it twice. Now, there are no rules for this password, so you can ignore this section up top. The new password will never expire, and it can be changed anytime I would like. Let's click on the Submit button, and within a second or two, I should receive confirmation that my new password has been saved. Okay, so within the web portal, when we log on as a basic user, someone without supervisory privileges, we have restricted access. So moving my mouse over to the top portion of the window, you'll notice an employee drop-down menu, which will be used for requesting time off, requesting payment for overtime worked. We'll also be able to sign up for open shifts, which are overtime opportunities that have been posted on the schedule. Depending on your organization, on your needs, you may have to punch in and out before and at the end of your shift each day. You'll also be able to arrange schedule switches, so we'll take a look at how that is done as well. The next menu we're going to look at, just as an overview, is the View Schedule menu. Here you're going to have daily, weekly, and monthly schedule views. Some of these will be personal schedule views, so you'll only be able to see your own schedule, and some will be department-wide or agency-wide schedule views. If your agency will be using our extra duty billing module to schedule any side work, basic users will have the ability to sign up for any extra duty jobs that have been posted. Basic users will also have access to their biweekly timesheets. And under reports, the only one that basic users will have access to is what we call an employee statistical report. And we're going to leave that for the last screen we look at today. And that's going to summarize all of our time off and overtime activity, will allow us to view time balances and other statistical data that we may need. So we're going to take a look at the View Schedule menu first. We're going to take a closer look at that, and we're going to look at some of the various schedule formats that we offer. So by clicking on the View Schedule option up top, over on the left, we're going to start from the top and work our way to the bottom. So we'll begin with our daily schedule. Now, this is the daily schedule for my database here, for my small department that I'm running. And it's showing September 2nd schedule, and it is arranged by displaying up to 6 different shifts at any given time. Within each shift, I have the list of individuals scheduled to work. First in order of rank or title, and then in order of seniority. So you should always see supervisors or managers at the very top of any given shift, followed by everyone else working within that department. For instance, I have a sergeant at the very top of the list, followed by all of the officers. And within this list of officers, everyone is listed in seniority order. So my most junior person working on any given shift will be listed at the very bottom. Also found within each shift are any job assignments that may be applied to someone's schedule. These can be used for patrol areas within a police department. It could also be used for various pay upgrades used in, let's say, a public works department. So if you have someone who's performing another function than they typically work, that could be displayed to the left of that individual's name.
Can I ask a very quick question?
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you just please identify yourself first?
Yes, I'm sorry. This is Kathy with the West Melbourne Police Department.
Yes, Kathy?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, my quick question, and I remember doing the setup, with your rank being first and then by seniority, what if the daily schedule is not showing it that way? Is that when we numbered our?
Yes, Kathy. Yes, Kathy. That is the way your ranks or titles were sorted out. But Kathy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind, please, just holding your questions towards the end, because this is a community-based training class, so we have several departments. And so if you wouldn't mind, you can use the chat option to send me your questions, but there will be a Q&A period made available at the end of the class as well.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So along with the job assignments, we're also going to see time off and overtime entries posted on the schedule. Here, for instance, is an example of sick time that's been placed on the schedule. Here's an example of overtime. And over the next hour or so, we're going to put in a few examples of that. Now, up top, you'll have a drop-down calendar, so you're free to select any other day you would like to see. And it should never take more than a few seconds for that schedule to load. Over to the right, you have shortcut buttons that will bring you forward to a single day or forward a week. You can also go back one day and back 1 week. Let's switch back to today. Now, going back to that drop-down calendar, depending on how far out your agency has chosen to build the schedules, is as far out as you'll be able to see it. In my schedule, for instance, it's only been built out till December 31st of 2016, so if I was to try to go any further out, these windows would appear blank. Next up, you're going to have, at the very least, one dashboard. Now here I have three. Depending on how your agency is structured, you may have a shift view for each department. whether it's a police department with several patrol shifts, which is what I'm using here, or you may have shift views based on the type of department you work out of. So let's say if we have Public Works, you might have a shift view called Public Works, one called Tax Collector's Office, one called Human Resources. So it really depends on how you chose to build these dashboards. Now, each view, like the one that I have here, can only show up to 6 shifts at any given time. But there might be multiple pages within that view. If there is, there will be an arrow available on the far right. And for those of you that have not minimized your go-to training window, you may need to move that or hide it in order to see what I'm about to click on. So if I was to click on that arrow, if there was a second page to this view, I would be able to see it. And you might have 3, 4 pages on any particular one. I'll click on the Home button to bring me back to page 1 of the Patrol shift view. And over to the right, we have checkboxes that will display the actual off times that people are requesting. And so before, we only saw that this individual was out for a sick day, but it didn't actually show the hours that they were out. And so let's move on to the next view on the list, which is our monthly calendar. Now, your monthly calendar is going to show you your work schedule along with any time off or overtime entries. So looking at my monthly calendar, I have some vacation time, some comp time, and they're color-coded, which indicate the status or approval status for those items. Items in blue are requests. Items in green have been approved. Items in yellow are flagged as approved with stipulation. So for some of you, that would be used as a first level approval or first step approval. And any denied items would be displayed in red. Now you can select any other month as long as that schedule has been built. You will be able to see your work schedule. In this case, I'm on a day shift, so that's what you're seeing here on the 5th, on the 6th, and again on the 10th and 11th. Over to the left, I can choose to view another employee's schedule. Now, you may have certain restrictions as to who everyone can see. As a basic user, a non-supervisory member of your particular agency, you still may want me to be able to view other people's schedules, especially if I may have to arrange a schedule switch with someone. It helps to know when they're working, if they have time off posted on the schedule as well. The next schedule view is called Monthly Schedule. And this is what we would refer to as a department or group-based view. Now, once again, because I'm logged on in a police type of department, I am found here, and here's the sick and vacation days that were posted on the schedule. And it shows that I am listed under Squad A. That is the department that I am assigned to, or group that I am assigned to. Now I'm free to select any other group within the drop-down menu. You might even have certain departments listed in subgroups. DPW is a great example of that. You might have 3 or 4 different groups that make up that division or that larger grouping. And so, of course, it's going to load up the monthly schedule based on everyone within my own group, but again, I can select any other one from the list. I can use the drop-down calendar to select any other day within the month that I want to see. And just within a few seconds, I should see that schedule loaded up. Under the single shift view, this is actually very similar to our daily schedule, which showed up to 6 shifts at any given time. Except here, you're selecting the specific shift from a drop-down list.
This is ridiculous. Yeah.
Next up is the weekly schedule, which is also based on the group or the department you are assigned to. You can select from any other group in the list, and you can use the drop-down calendar to view any other week on the schedule as long as it's been built. The last item on the View Schedule menu is our yearly calendar. This summarizes my schedule, and once again, we see the time off entries for September. And we also have shortcut buttons to request overtime or time off directly, which is what we're going to look at next. Let's switch over, though, briefly to the daily schedule window. And we're going to start posting a couple of items on the schedule, some time off entries, some overtime entries. We'll even request a schedule switch. And to perform those functions, we're going to move under the Employee drop-down menu. Now we're going to look at some of these items somewhat out of order. We're going to address these basically, in terms of the ones you're going to most commonly use, which is probably scheduled time off, right? It's probably the most frequent function that most of your basic users will perform through this system. Let's select Schedule Time Off. And on the screen that pops up, we'll have a brand new form to fill out with items listed in red. Okay, those are required fields. But before we put in our sample item, everyone will be able to view their time balances, which will show what was given, what's been used so far this year, and what their remaining balance is. Along with showing balances, we can also view time off activity. So let's fill out a brand new request Starting from the top, we have our name, of course. Now, in most cases, your basic users will only be able to request a day off on their own behalf. But I would like to mention that since supervisors will be accessing the system as well, and some of you may fall in that category, you will have the ability of selecting other individuals within your department or the entire agency. After we have the name, we're going to select the date or dates that we would like to take off. You're free to put in a single day or put in a date range if you would like. If you enter a date range, you don't have to worry about the off days in between. The system will know when you're scheduled to work, and it will charge you the right amount of time against your banks. Under shift, most of you will be able to leave that set to all shifts. That means I want to take from September 25th to September 30th off. Doesn't matter what shift I'm assigned to work on those days, I want them all off. If, however, you're putting in a date range and you may rotate between day and night shifts, you will have the option to say, no, I only want to take the night shifts within that window of time, or I only want to take the day shifts. For my example here, I'll just leave it set to all shifts. And under part of day, for my first example, we're going to leave that set to entire day. That means we're taking the full day within that 5-day period. Under reason, select the bank of time that you would like to use. Under status, basic users should only have the ability to submit a request. Once again, for supervisors that will be using the web portal, you may have additional options available. So if someone calls out sick, you can choose their name from the drop-down list and just mark the item as approved. There's no reason to send the item through the approval process in your case. But since we're entering this item from the perspective of a basic user, the only option that should be available is request. So we've covered everything in red. You do have the option to add additional comments onto your request, but it's certainly not required. Before we click Save, under Email Notification, you'll have 3 options. You can send to default, which means that your direct supervisor will receive an email for your request, and that supervisor will view the entry and approve or deny it. No notifications means that just emails are not sent. Select employees means you're going to hand pick who you want to send an email to. And this may work in situations where if my supervisor or manager is not working or not available, I may have to send it to someone else. So for my first example that we're about to save, I'm going to request several days off, and I'll stick with sending it to my direct supervisor. Let's click on the Save button. And the message that is displayed says that I do not have enough time for what I'm requesting. Now at this point, I should click on the Cancel button and perhaps choose one of the other types of time off. I think I have some more time in the personal bank. And now my request has been saved. An email will be sent to me for my own records, as well as to my supervisor, notifying them of the request. And again, that's how they know they have to log in and view the entry and approve or deny it. Now, that email notification is really just that. It doesn't mean that other people can't approve it. It's just we're notifying the direct supervisor. If for some reason our supervisor has not received the email or is not around to approve it, then you can go ahead, ask any supervisor. They will be able to log in, view the entry, and approve it. Let's go back to our schedules. And under the monthly calendar, we see that the personal time requests have been posted in blue with a question mark. Once our supervisor approves that entry, I will receive another email in my inbox, and those items will be displayed in green. Let's put in one more time off example. So we'll use the scheduled time off screen, but this time I'm just going to select a single workday. I'm only assigned to one shift on that day, so I don't need to select anything from this drop-down menu. Now, under part of day, before I set it to entire day, I took the whole day off, but this time I may want to take a partial. So if I have to set the actual hours that I want to take off, use first or second. I like to think of first as first request, second request. And that's handy because eventually you can use this to request a full day using up to 2 banks. But for these purposes here, once I select first, I'm going to select the bank of time I want to use, and then I'm going to key in the hours that I want to take off. Now I'm keying these in the military time format. Depending on how your system was set up, you actually had the choice to set it to AM or PM format. But from this point forward, the request still gets applied the same way. We click on the request button. And at the bottom, you can choose to send the email to the default list, which will send it to your direct supervisor. Or, for this example, we'll select the employees you want to send this request to. Now, once again, it's telling me I don't have enough time for what I'm requesting. However, the system will allow me to click continue with my request. So it could allow me to request more time than I have, but that will be subject to the supervisor approving it, who will have that information when they're seeing my entry and processing it. But for now, we're just going to select who we would like to send that email to in case our supervisor is not available. You can send it to as many people as you feel you need to, and then click on the OK button. Now when we click on Show Time Off, we have our full list of all day off entries along with the statuses of those requests. Have they been approved or denied? Now, of course, we should be receiving email notifications as that happens, but if for some reason, if there's a breakdown there, I didn't receive the email, I can always just log in and view the entries. Now, as soon as your day off is approved, and hopefully it's approved, the time will be removed from your available balance. If, however, you cancel the day off and the day off is removed from the schedule, the time will go back into your bank. Now, with that said, in order to cancel a day off, you must see a supervisor or administrator. Basic users will not have the ability to delete day off requests. The next thing we're going to look at under the employee section is called request overtime payment. Request overtime payment is used when someone ended up working late, maybe by a few hours, and are going to submit a request for payment. Now, if your particular agency simply doesn't do it that way, maybe your overtime always has to be pre-approved, well, your basic users may not have access to this screen, or they shouldn't try to use it if it's simply not allowed. For everyone else who will be using it, click on Request Overtime Payment. And within this form, you just have to tell us the date that you worked, the shift that you were on when the overtime occurred, the reason for the overtime, and the desired pay rate. You're then going to enter the actual extra work times under the start and end field. So let's just take a quick look at the daily schedule and see when I worked last. Here I am on the day shift for September 2nd. So this particular shift ends at 1900 or 7 p.m. So the situation may have been I received a late call, I worked an extra 2 hours, and now I need to submit a form through the system. So using request overtime payment, I'm going to select the shift that I was on when the overtime occurred, the reason for the overtime, and this is not necessarily the list of overtime reasons you might have, but you're going to choose the overtime reason that applies, and then you're going to select your preferred pay type. Next, adjust the hours to reflect the additional hours worked. And under status, just as was the case with time off entries, basic users will only be able to submit a request on their own behalf. Okay, we're just about ready, but I want to point out a couple things. Number one, my day shift, as I mentioned, ends at 7 p.m. So it started at 7 a.m., ended at 7 p.m. The situation that I was in here caused me to work until 2100. So even though this might be considered the night shift hours, the overtime originated on the day shift. Okay, very important to keep that in mind. Now let's talk about another example. On an overlapping shift, let's say I was on a night shift. Let's say I came in at 7 p.m. tonight, September 2nd, and I ended my workday 7 a.m. the following day, the 3rd. If I ended up working overtime at the end of that shift, I would still choose September 2nd. Because the shift that I was on where the overtime occurred actually began on the 2nd, even though the additional hours I worked occurred the next day. I'd also like to point out that under the overtime reasons, there might be a minimum payout for some of these items. Court is a great example where we see that. I may have worked a half hour of court time, but I may be entitled to 3 hours of pay for that. If your agency has applied that into the system, you only need to enter the actual hours you worked overtime, and the system will automatically round that up for you. Now, there's one more setting that might be applied behind the scenes on these overtime reasons, and it has to do with the available pay types. So in my situation here, I was putting in late call overtime, and I was able to select one of 4 different pay options. You may be restricted to the types of pay options you have based on your overtime reason. If this was grant-related work, well, you might only be able to select cash. Once you select the overtime reason, the system will automatically display just the available pay types. Now, with regards to the pay types themselves, just a few things you want to keep in mind. For agencies that recalculate overtime based on the amount of hours worked, you may select time and a half cash, but that might not be guaranteed. So within your agency, if you must work a certain amount of hours within a week or within a pay period, and you have not reached that number, any additional hours you worked may end up reverted to straight pay, and that all depends on your agency's rules. Okay, so we're about ready to save this form. At the very bottom, once again, you can choose to send that to your default list, your direct supervisor, or you can select from a list of employees. Let's click on the Save button. Our request has been saved, and an email will be sent out to our supervisor. If I was to view the daily schedule for September 2nd, here is the late call overtime entry we just saved. Okay, so now we're ready to take a look at a couple of other options available under the employee drop-down menu. Not every one of which you may choose to adopt for your particular agency. And the first one we're going to look at there is called open shifts. So an open shift is an overtime opportunity that has been created by an administrator or supervisor and posted online so that someone like me can view it and sign up for it. Within this window, I can choose based on date range, or I can use the drop-down menu to see any and all open shifts that have been posted that I am capable of working. Each entry will show the date, the shift, the hours that are needed, and the reason for the overtime. To select one, click on it, and it will show you are signed up. Depending on your agency's rules, you may be selected to now work on that day, depending on where you might fall on a seniority list or, using whichever process your agency currently uses or has programmed into the system. Now, if I am selected to work an open shift, I will receive an email letting me know that overtime has been approved for that particular day. I will not need to submit my own overtime request for that. It has already been created for me. Now, for some of you, you may receive phone calls from a supervisor filling a staffing shortage. They might offer you to work on a particular day. If you accept, once again, that overtime is also being posted on the schedule for you. So the only time you should have to fill out one of these requests, like we did in the last step, is if you work late at the end of your shift, or if you did something like court overtime, right? But if it was assigned to you using an open shift or using a call list, some of you might even be using text messaging to fill overtime. If that's the case, you don't have to put in a form for that. It is done for you. Let's look at a couple of other options under that employee drop-down menu. For those that will be punching in and out, you can actually do that through the web portal. Now, interestingly, this will actually track your location. So if you try punching in from a location other than, the building you're working out of, that information will become available. To punch in, use the buttons below to start your shift, and then at the end of the day, end your shift. Now, this may not apply to everyone. Some of you guys are going to be punching in, maybe using a time clock. Some of you will not punch in at all. Some of you can punch in using the web portal. The last screen we're going to look at under the employee section is called Request Switch. So let's take a look for a moment at my monthly calendar. Let's find a good day where I can arrange a schedule switch with another person. And maybe I'll do that here on the 18th, where I'm currently assigned to a day shift. I can use my daily schedule to go to the 18th. I don't see any time off activity on any of the opposite shifts, so I may choose to ask Bill here to switch with me. Once I've made the arrangements with Bill, I have to fill out a form. So under the employee section, we're going to select Request Switch. Up top, you'll be able to arrange what we call a standard switch, which means I'm going to work for someone on one day, they're going to work for me on another day, or it could be the same day and we're just swapping shifts. I'm going to work your night shift and you're going to work my day shift. Below, we have open-ended switches. That's what we call substitutions. In a situation like that, I might work for someone, or they might work for me, and 3-4 months from now, I may end up working for them on some other day. And we may not necessarily know when that is. It could be months from now. It might never happen. So sticking with my example for the 18th, on the left side, I'm going to select the day I want to come off of the schedule. And for good measure, I'll click on the Update button so that it verifies that I am on the schedule to begin with. Over on the right, I'm going to choose the person that I am switching with. Now, for this example, I'm just going to leave it set to the 18th. So we're still working the same days, we're just swapping the shifts. I'll click on the Update button again so it verifies that Bill is on the schedule. And when I'm done, I can click on the Request button, and my request has now been saved. Now, I could have done a substitution. I could have selected the same day, verified my shift. I could have asked anyone else here who was not already working to work on my behalf for either the full shift or for a portion of it. Using this method means that somewhere down the line, Diane would have placed a request for me to work for her on some day out in the future, 3, 4, 5 months from now. Now, whether you use the standard switch where the payback dates, if you will, are already established, or the open-ended version, like the substitution, it's important that you know that these do not affect pay in any way whatsoever. If your department pays shift differential, it does not affect that. Once the schedule switch is applied, it is posted on the schedule like a simple note. All right, so let's move away from the employee section, and we just have a few more screens to look at this afternoon. And we're going to swing over to the extra duty section. Now, basic users will only have access to sign up for extra duty jobs that have been posted. The way this works is we click on the button. We'll see a list of all extra duty jobs that have been posted on the schedule. We click on any item. In most cases, we can ignore the priority. I would say just click on the yes button. The only ones that have to worry about setting a priority number are those agencies out there who are using auto-approve for extra duty billing jobs. Now, some of you may have not taken that step yet and taken that class and configured it. But if you are, for those administrators out there attending this class, if that does sound like something that you might be doing, then that's covered a bit more in depth during the extra duty setup classes. And those classes, by the way, are primarily for administrators or extra duty coordinators. Now, you can sign up for as many jobs as you would like. You can also remove your request, but you can only do that up till the job has been assigned to you. Once it's yours, if it is yours, you would have to go to whoever is a supervisor or coordinator of extra duty work, and they would have to remove you. Now, depending on your agency's process for filling these jobs, if you are selected to work an extra duty job, you will receive an email notification. Okay, so we're almost done. I would like to take a brief look at the timesheets and payroll section, because for those of you, for those agencies out there who will be processing payroll through the system, for us, the basic users, will have access to our timesheets. So whether it's done on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, whenever it might be, we can use timesheets and review payroll, and this will show us our time off and overtime activity, what we can expect to see on our next paycheck. The last screen that we're going to look at today is found under the report section. It is called Employee Statistical Report. And this summarizes really everything that we've talked about this afternoon. We have our time balance information available up top, our summary of time off, overtime worked, under administrative days log. This will keep track of all the changes made to our time bank. So at the beginning of the year, when we get fresh accruals of vacation, sick, and personal time, we'll have a record of that information. Next, we have a simple work trend that displays the total amount of hours we're scheduled to work, total amount of days, and a breakdown by day. Here, it shows us instances of time off and overtime. So this doesn't mean that I took a whole Sunday off. It just means that I took time off on a Sunday. Could have been a partial, could have been a full day. Finally, under extra duty, any extra duty jobs that we have worked or are assigned to work will be displayed with the details of the job, and it will also include the status of those. So, was the invoice paid? And for some of you, that might make a difference. If in your particular agency you are not paid until the vendor pays their bill, then this information might be of some use to you. All right, folks, so that's the end of scheduling for basic users. Now, part 2 of this class is the scheduling for supervisors. So I just wanted to take a moment to bring up the training catalog. And so for those that have not yet signed up for the one on September 6th, we have one available then. The next one is not available until the 27th. So this is for you supervisors out there. You know, we showed you how to view schedules, how to manage your own time off and overtime, the same thing that really every user needs to know. But in this class here on the 6th, class number 9, we're going to look at approving time off, approving overtime, filling staffing shortages using a number of different methods, along with this couple of other supervisory level functions. I would also recommend any administrators who have not yet attended that class to please sign up for that one as well. All right, folks, so I'd like to take a moment to open up the microphones. Now we have several departments online. We have 10 people total that registered just for this class this afternoon. So I'm going to open up the microphones, and you should notice an option there on Go To Training to raise your hand. So in order to be able to do this in a somewhat orderly fashion, if you wouldn't mind just using that option, or you can use the chat function to submit your question that way. And I'd like to take any questions on viewing schedules, requesting time off, requesting overtime, or even using some of the sign-up options we looked at. All right, I'm just on standby as some of you type in your questions. And again, if you can't find that button to raise your hand, you can go ahead and use that. Okay. Loretta, hi. The notes I believe you're referring to are the training aids that come with the basic setup classes. Those don't exist for this training class. There is the video that we post, that we make available that way, but there's no actual handout for this particular class. Kathy.
Yes, hi.
Hi, how are you? You had a question for me?
I did. It's about that ranking order I had asked earlier about. If I notice that somebody is not ranked properly, does that go back to the original setup of when we numbered our employees? I just want to make sure I'm going to the right area to fix that.
Yes, what you want to look at is your titles. Under your list center in the desktop application, you're going to go to list center and you're going to go to set up titles.
Okay.
And you're going to make sure that your highest ranking people or highest ranking titles have the lower number, right? So the very highest is number 1, and then you're just going to work your way up from there.
And just
now,
to confirm,
now Kathy, within the rank, if you have several officers and those names are not being displayed in the right order, it's because their seniority number in their employee profile may not be set correctly.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just take a look at that daily schedule. I'm going to bring it up very briefly here. So the first method of sort is always rank and title. So it always looks at the title the person carries and then looks at the sort number attached to it. That's how we always have sergeants above officers, supervisors above anyone else. But within the rank, like the group of officers I have here, David Wallace is appearing at the bottom because he has the highest seniority number, right? Whereas Coleman here has a much lower seniority number.
Okay.
So really there's 2 areas where this may have went south for you. It was either at the rank or title screen, or it's in the employee profile screen where you added all of your personnel.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. And Kathy, just a follow-up on the one question that you sent. With the ranking order, whether it's the title or the seniority for the employee profile, those values can be changed at any time. So if there is a mistake, you can go in and modify it until people are being listed in the way they need to.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very welcome. Jennifer, I believe from East Hartford, was there any question from you guys? I know you're migrating over from the legacy version. Just wanted to make sure you were getting what you needed.
From Egg Harbor Township?
Oh, is that Egg Harbor? I'm sorry.
I didn't know. I'm
Egg
looking.
Harbor.
Okay. Yes. Not right now. We're in the old version still. I know where the seniority is on the employee profile, but where would I find the list center, or isn't it there in the old web version?
No, that's a great question, and I'm just going to bring up the desktop application for a moment because this has changed in the newest version of the desktop application. And so let me just log on there and point that out. And while I'm waiting for this to load, if I can get it to load, Jennifer, what it was is in the legacy version, there was a screen called Update Ranks.
Okay.
Right, that's where you added, whether it was an officer, sergeant, whatever titles you were entering into the system. Now that is found under the List Center. It's called Setup Titles, and that's what we were referring to, the sort order number.
Okay. So on an employee profile in the new desktop version, is there still a seniority there?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
It's on the bottom right.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, and Steve, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what department you're with, but you asked about upgrading from the legacy version. So you're still using the old POS Enterprise version of the program? And if so, if you can just let me know if okay, you're using what we have in the screen now. Okay, so you're good. You're not on the legacy version. The legacy is our old. That's what we call our older system. So you should be in good shape, especially if you have implemented fairly recent. Okay, any other questions before we close out this afternoon's class?
Not here.
Okay. Brenda, at Maple Shade, I just wanted to make sure you got what you needed from us this afternoon. Okay, wonderful. Now, I would like to remind you guys, even though you've moved on from the basic schedule build and now you're in the training classes, you still have access to the help out sessions. So, I totally get it. We're doing this in a community environment where we're talking about things at a somewhat high level. If you need assistance with something specific your agency is doing, use the help out sessions. They're on the same registration page as the classes. These are the same ones that you may have signed up for during your build. Just choose the date and time that works best for you, and then you have us for 45 minutes. Right? The floor is yours. We can log on, take a look at what you guys are doing and what you're having difficulty with, and it's our pleasure to do that for you. Okay? And these classes are added, we continuously add more and more every week. Okay. Well, if that's it for questions, I just want to take the opportunity and thank you all for your time. I get it. This is not the most exciting stuff to have to sit down and watch and listen to, so I appreciate everyone's patience. Please enjoy the long weekend, and I'm just going to be online for another minute or two in case any last-minute questions come up. But thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Francisco.
Thank you.
Thank you.